I've always enjoyed the celebration of Halloween. As a child, I liked it because of all the candy I got from trick-or-treating. But even now as an adult, I love carving pumpkins, putting a candle in them and lighting them up at night. I always let my friends handle the scary part of this season. I wasn't into frightening things. In fact, I preferred smiley faces on my jack-o'-lanterns. But I realize that there are a lot of things that are frightening me lately. Fears that are paralyzing me. Fear of job security. Fear of getting sick. Fear of growing older. Fear of paying the bills. Fear of loneliness, like this lonely cow I told you about in which my chickens have befriended. Or how about the fear of being misunderstood or not accepted? I once heard a story of a woman who said if she lived in the 1600s, she might have been burnt at the stake as a witch, all because she liked to be by herself, tend to her herbs with her black cat by her side. We shouldn't be afraid of being who we are. An author once wrote that the two things we are afraid of are death and living. And out of those two, living scares us the most. With the carving complete, an idea came to me to take the pumpkins and have a nighttime pumpkin prayer walk. A time for me and a time for you to remember how God's light is shining through us. But before we get to that, I had to treat my chickens to some of the leftover pumpkins. I began to get ready to head out into the woods. The basket filled with pumpkins. Off I went. Fritz only followed me halfway. He preferred to stay home with his father. With the sun shining, I was able to set up the pumpkins for our prayer walk. And it was then that I remembered a writing from Marianne Williamson in her book, A Return to Love. And I want to share it with you as you join me for this pumpkin prayer walk. Listen deeply to her words. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. We are all meant to shine. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we give other people permission to do the same. Sometimes, though, this world will do its best to snuff out the light that is in each one of us. But my friends, on this pumpkin prayer walk, this is my reminder to you that God's light is always shining upon you. Well, thank you for joining me on this special edition of Olde Stone Well Farm. In a pattern of bringing videos to you, it seems like every 2 weeks, a little bit earlier, because I wanted to show you behind the scenes at the farm. My husband was kind of wondering if the camera was still rolling when I came to the table with the basket full of pumpkins. He wasn't enthused at all, and no, he did not help me carve the pumpkins. He's just not into that. Side note, while I like to dress in classic country clothing that have an 18th century feel to them, like this jacket with the little peplum here, I've been after him for a few years to let me buy him some 18th century men's clothing as well. I think he would look really cute as a continental soldier, or even perhaps a British soldier. I'm not quite sure which one I would like to see him in, but I don't have to keep wondering, because the answer to either one, continental soldier or British soldier, is no. Anyway, I first came across the works of Marianne Williamson when I was on a church retreat, and her writing was presented to us. And I remember in my journal underscoring that part that says, "Were you not to shine? For you are a child of God. Your playing small in the world doesn't do the world any good." That really struck me so many years ago, because I have a tendency of hiding my light under a bushel. I second guess everything. I let insecurity take over all my dreams, all my crazy ideas, and then I wind up just living with the dreams in my head. And so there you have it. My greatest fear is my light. And I try so hard to subdue it and run away from it, because it is frightening, the things that God is asking of us, of all the great things that we can accomplish. Why does that scare us? I don't know. Sometimes I think it's just a lot easier to fail and to be down in the dumps rather than to succeed. Perhaps that's because when we do succeed, or when we do put something out there and it's well received, perhaps we have imposter syndrome. Maybe we think we don't deserve the greatness or the accolades, or maybe we think that, oh, they're going to find out that I'm really a fake or a phony and I'm not that brilliant. We need to stop and put that all aside. Right, Fritz? You are out of control. Have you been into the big bowl of Halloween candy? I think he's on a sugar rush here. So I think that's why I love lighting up pumpkins, because there's this pumpkin prayer that talks about how God chooses us in the pumpkin patch, and we're all dirty, and then God wipes the dirt off, and then he scoops out all the gunk that is inside of us. And then inside is the divine light that is lit, and it shines through us. For the smiley face on the pumpkin, because every time I look at that, I think about how God's light is shining through me. And I should smile, and that smile should reach the world. Abraham Maslow was a 20th century psychologist who dubbed the fear of letting our light shine, the fear of truly living, he called it the Jonah syndrome, named after Jonah in the Bible, who was called by God to proclaim a prophecy, to warn the people of Nineveh that unless they repent, they will be destroyed. And he was giving a task, and God knew that he was up to the task. Now, Jonah didn't want these people to be saved. That's a whole other story. But Jonah did not live into his call. In fact, he ran away from what God was asking him to do. And of course, we know what happened to Jonah. He wound up in the belly of a whale. Eventually, he did follow through to what God wanted him to do. I don't think I'm at risk for winding up in the belly of a whale. But I wonder how many times I am running from what God is wanting me to do. How many times am I second guessing the very God gifts that are in me? How many times do I choose not to let that divine light in me shine through? We're born to make manifest the glory of God that is in each one of us. What frightens you the most? We all have that light inside, and some of us are indeed afraid of it. Some of us spend our lives running away from that light, doing everything we can so that we won't shine, for fear of rejection, fear of being found out to be an imposter, fear of actually being good at something, fear of actually feeling like, yeah, I can go after that dream. And that dream can be a possibility. So when I heard of that saying that there are two things in life that we are afraid of, and that is death and living is the most frightening thing, that made me pause, because it is so true. Death is probably easier than living, because we think there's so much to risk and lose in the decisions we make in life. When the very thing that fear does is actually prevents God working through us. Fear paralyzes the divine spirit that gives us the courage to do all things. When I was recently editor of a magazine, I remember the very first editorial that I had to write. I really took a lot of time on it, because this was the first time my voice was going to be heard to a readership that has yet to get to know me. So I remember reading the editorials from the previous editor, and it was very academic. It was very language of the denomination. It was for a Presbyterian magazine. And so it was very church language, very lofty. When I read those editorials, I thought, okay, well, that is what they expect. So I wrote my first editorial in that vein. I kept a lot of my voice out of it, handed it into the copy editor. And she called me and she said, "We can't run this." And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is it that bad? And she said, "It's not your voice. We hired you as editor of this magazine because of your writing that was just so personal. I was not letting my light shine. I thought I had to be somebody else. I thought that this was the voice that they wanted to hear. I was trying to make myself someone I wasn't." I've done that so many times, hiding behind what I thought the world wants and not revealing the true Donna. What about you? How many times do you try to fit your life into what you think others want? How many times do you find yourself not truly being who you are, all because you think that's what's expected of you. What would happen if we all decided just to be who we are and accepted that? What if we decided just to let our lights shine and not make any excuses for the brilliance of our light? I'm glad you joined me on the pumpkin prayer walk. It was something that just came to me after carving those pumpkins. And as I walked in the leaves, I kept asking God to help me shine my light more in this world and to not be afraid of it. So I don't want to spend my life running from who I really am. And I don't want to fear living. I want to embrace this life. So may your light within shine bright as a jack-o'-lantern. Shine bright this Halloween and always.